One continent, over 12,000 nautical miles, a fleet of the world's best warships, and sailors. They sail around Africa, their mission to gather information.
Hello!
Create a presence, deter crime and piracy, and come back intact. It's a mission full of surprises, and one the sailors will never forget.
Ready, set, go!
Under the stare of Table Mountain, a Navy fleet prepares to sail. Canadian sailors say goodbye to another exotic port. After 4 days of exploring Cape Town, it's time to get back to work. The crew is sailing around Africa. It's a part of a larger NATO mission. After a month at sea, they're almost halfway around the continent.
The other guys, I want the other 4 on the fender. Any questions? Go.
The threat right now in Cape Town remains low as it was when we came in. And for hostile act, delegation of 50 cal and small arms will be given the executive officer.
The ship's force protection team stands guard. The waters off South Africa are relatively safe, but the ship is out of her normal area of operation. They expect surprises. For the captain of a ship, the crew's safety is the first priority.
Operating in a coastal area of a failed state like Somalia, or in our work on the west coast off Nigeria, you never know what's going to happen. So we put a lot of time and effort into being ready to repel any threat that comes our way.
HMCS Toronto, a 4,000-ton warship. There are 230 people on board, and they live in pretty tight quarters. The captain is used to living in tight spaces. After a career spent living at the bottom of the ocean, he's ready to rise to the surface for this mission.
I joined the Navy to go into submarines. Wanted to do it since I was a 17-year-old. I wanted to be a submarine captain, and so that's what I joined and did. So I spent the better part of 23 years in subs, and then I got selected to come here to this great ship, and I was completely thrilled because I'm from Toronto and it was the Toronto, so that was a really big thing.
The Canadian sailors are not the only strangers to these waters. NATO warships from 6 different countries sail together. Vessels from the South African Navy even train with them for part of the way. Together, they create a massive presence. A presence that NATO hopes will collect information, build relations, and deter marine crime around Africa.
Piracy off Somalia is second to the South China Sea, and it's been escalating over the years. And due to the lawlessness ashore, it spread just off the shore in sort of local piracy. And then now it's out to over 200 miles off the coast, and they're even conducting attacks against large vessels.
The number of pirate attacks around the Horn of Africa is on the rise.
I say again, sequence ships off Fisher, Toronto, Normandy, Spessart, Evertsen, sequence.
Commander Rob Kramer is the captain of the Dutch ship, Evertsen. He takes pirates very seriously.
Well, it's something totally different than that you might have in your mind with regard to, let's say, the old romantic kind of pilots. These pilots are not romantic. These are die-hard criminals who do not fear, let's say, even Navy ships at times. They're ruthless. They'll kill without remorse, definitely.
In 2 weeks, the fleet will sail some of the world's most dangerous waters off of Somalia.
B9, 713 ahead, check, sir.
Their mandate isn't to fight pirates, but they have to protect themselves. The threat of a pirate attack is real. Second in command of HMCS Toronto is Angus Topshee. He's the executive officer, or XO. Today, he trains his crew to take out an asymmetrical threat.
An asymmetric threat is anything that's not the normal naval threat, the traditional sort of aircraft firing a missile or ship firing a missile, submarine firing a torpedo. It could be something from a small boat, it could be a land attack from mortar bombs, it could be guys firing rifles at the ship directly from any sort of small boat or from a bridge.
What do you say?
The exercise allows the bosuns to practice their aim on a fast-moving target. They train with real ammunition, so the target must be expendable.
It's a killer red tomato, or well, basically that's actually I think the proper target name. It's a target we use for gunnery practice. It's easy to see and it takes a fair amount of damage.
The target simulates a pirate skiff. The 50 cal gunners load up.
WDO, gun 5, at the load.
Luckily for them, this target doesn't shoot back. The target is in the water. The ship will race past to create a high-speed environment. The exercise simulates an attack from a pirate skiff, one zipping around the ship at 46 kilometers an hour. The gunners have to be accurate and fast.
100 range clear, carry on.
No response,
When an unidentified boat gets too close, the 57 Beaufort gun fires warning shots. For the exercise, the warnings are ignored. The threat must be removed. The ship has all kinds of weapons on board, from torpedoes to missiles. But for modern missions, it's the 50 cal machine guns that steal the spotlight.
It's been proven in our operational testing that is our best defense against the classic asymmetric small boat attack.
Gun position number 2, engage!
The bosun waiting in the back get their turn.
Engage!
Despite the rocky shooting conditions, the bullets find their target.
There's not much left of the target right now. Killer red tomato is dead, and the other target we don't know until we recover it. Yeah, that was a 57 millimeter.
Petty Officer Merrill Skinner is the Assistant Chief Bosun Mate. He's happy his crew has good aim.
The exercise went really well. We had a lot of good training value in there. The guys shot really well. The drills that they practiced for the last several months have really worked out. It's nice to have a target that we can shoot at, so now when we do go on operations after Seychelles, they're ready for it.
The people at the pointy end of force protection are the boarding party members. All of the NATO navies have boarding parties. They're the ship's protectors. And they're heavily armed. Their main job is to approach and board other ships.
Stop. Let me see your hands. Open your mouth. Let me see your tongue. Okay. I'm going to full body search you, right? Yes.
They're on the front line of danger.
Come to the single lock position!
Lieutenant Mike Bielby is the boarding party officer. They call him Alpha 1.
On the line of the red P!
B5, be ready!
He says the role of the boarding party is changing.
Boarding party, I mean, traditionally, you know, back first Gulf War, we required the full 20 personnel, and they were going over in 2 waves, and they were doing a lot of searches of sea containers and the dipping of oil tanks and that, because we were, of course, looking for oil that was being smuggled out of Iraq.
For this mission, the boarding party still approaches boats. The ones around Africa are smaller and easier to search, but no less daunting.
Hello! Yeah, it was a bit of an innovative tactic we developed in the Niger Delta. We wanted to get a real sense of what was happening on the water, and we couldn't do that by VHF. You can't call them up on a radio if they don't have a radio. The boats we were approaching were only about 10 meters long, crewed by about up to 10, 15 people in some cases. It really looked a lot like a dugout canoe. And so our approach was to go up to them. It was typically fairly hot in the Niger Delta, so we'd drive up with our rib and offer them some cold water, some cans of Coke, some fruit, and just chat with them, let them know that NATO was here, was interested in what was going on, try and find out how long they'd been at sea, what they were doing, what sort of fish they were catching, and just generally make friends.
The boarding party practices weapons drills. The ship's flight deck doubles as a shooting range.
Winter 6 hour, present! Fire!
6 Hour is a primary weapon. Yes, it's always holstered, but it's our primary weapon. There is a round chambered. It should be the boarding party members' initial response to draw their 6 Hour, regardless of any situation, even if they have an MP5 or another weapon.
They practice on their biggest threat during the mission, a thug with a gun. The captain wouldn't send the boarding party to a boat if there was a known danger. But boarding parties have been attacked before. The team needs to be ready for anything.
For the upcoming 2 weeks or so while we're operating off the Horn of Africa, as far as I know, or what I've been briefed on so far, is that we'll still be doing the approach ops like we've been doing. The difference, I think, will be, at least in the Horn of Africa versus the Gulf of Guinea, is that the threat level is a little higher in the Horn of Africa, because quite often it is people in the fishing boats that are doing the piracy.
The boarding party continues to train as the ship sails around the southern tip of Africa and up towards one of the world's most dangerous waterways. The crew of HMCS Toronto start each day with some comedy, a volunteer radio show. This morning, it's Lieutenant Ben Seaby's turn to wake up the ship. They call him the NAVO.
Good morning, Toronto! Welcome to another episode of Sleeping with the Naval, and this is going to be a fabulous episode indeed. We have quite a few special guests here this morning. It's going to be great, and like always, Sleeping with the Naval, I'm going to be leaving you wanting more. Okay, so now for a couple of public service announcements before we...
The NAVO's goal is to brighten some days.
Don't forget about the Zodiac race.
He's one of the ship's many practical jokers.
That's wonderful. What should I pack for? Europe? The Caribbean? He says I don't care. Be gone when I get home. Back to you, Navo. Awesome. Thank you very much, Stev. Another great show. Okay, now it's time.
Morale is very important on board ship. Being away from family and friends for 5, 6 months puts a lot of stress on a lot of guys, you know, with their family lives and with their wives and their kids. And so we need to do things that keep things upbeat, keep things a little lighter, and take away, I guess, counterbalance the serious side of the operational side and I guess the more stressful side of things.
I have 2 contests this show. Of course, first one is 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. And here we go.
Even the people he pokes fun at find him amusing.
Seeing as how I'm one of the people he talks about most on this show, and I only wish he wouldn't, his show's pretty good.
The ship is the home and office for the sailors. It operates around the clock and has to be self-sufficient. On board, there are people who fix mechanical things, fix electrical things.
5.2, they got a fairly low value. Around 5.
And people who will fix anything. If something breaks down in the middle of the Indian Ocean, you have to fix it yourself.
there's a lot to be done, you know, really at the end of the day, but we can't just work. People have to have high spirits in order to do what we do. The prolonged periods of time at sea, the living conditions that we sometimes have to have.
The radio show is just one of the ways to keep the crew smiling. Sometimes they get a chance to take a swim or have a barbecue on deck. The ship even puts on its own comedy show.
I had only one student. This guy.
But the Zodiac Cup Challenge is a mission favorite.
Skippy, want to grab a hold of you?
Right now, Skippy's team has the lead.
The Zodiac Cup is a thing that we do on here to improve morale. Thus far, we had about 8 teams take part in it, and even one from the Dutch ship. They sent a group over. And the deck department, which I totally expected, has the record. And the record is 4 minutes and 36 seconds, and we challenge all comers.
And time starts when the whistle goes. Time ends when the 5th person touches the white bar at the top of the scramble net.
The goal is simple. Paddle around the ship as fast as you can. It's a mission-long contest. And at the end, someone will win a trophy. Today's race is between a Canadian team and a Dutch team. It's Jane of the Apes versus the Evertsen All-Stars.
It was hard paddling in the swells and stuff like that. So by the time we got around to the other side, everybody was huffing and puffing. And trying to get up that ladder is not an easy thing in bare feet.
The team has broken the record and moved to first place. Naturally, this creates competition among the crew.
Well, it took a lot of great steering way by Petty Officer Skinner here. Doc. And the doc helped out. Yeah. Don't know where she is. And then, well, the rest of us, we did what we could. Trash talk is over. We own the house.
We win now. Jane and the Apes rules.
So we're still a champion in our heart. We'll regain our title again. Yeah, we'll go again and beat them. They had a month and a half to train. Yeah. When we did it, there was icebergs there. You know, yeah. It was glass. Where's the Arctic? Like 3-meter swells, white caps. We haven't said the last word yet. That's all we can say. Watch out for Delta Force.
The Dutch team prepares to fight for the title.
That is still, by only 5 seconds, the 3rd best time on board. So, okay, and this is the Dutch record. Yes, the Dutch record. Dutch record. The 3rd best time.
They didn't win the race, but they enjoy the rest of their afternoon on HMCS Toronto. Over the course of the mission, the navies get more and more comfortable working with each other. The captains of the ships get together regularly.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Good relations between the fleet are necessary for a successful mission.
If the weather conditions are such that it's unsafe, we don't do it. We do it over the radio. But there's nothing like getting together face to face, talking about the issues, different ways to solve them, and then coming together with a united approach. So when we all go back to our ships, we can give the Admiral's direction and say, this is the way we're going to do it.
Even if you're not the captain, you can still go visit other ships to check them out. It's called cross-pollination or cross-pol.
It's very important in order to get to other ships and see how they operate and learn from them as well.
A couple of sailors cross-pol to the Dutch ship. Although they love their Canadian cooks and crew, they can't help but notice the Dutch ship is roomier in design.
The ship is really built with like comfort in mind. This is like spectacular. Your own shower, your own sink, and a bed with a duvet. It's just amazing.
It's great. It's an awesome ship. Very, very modern. Very, I guess, comfortable as compared to our ships. But yes, it being only 2 years old, a lot of modern equipment, just its layout and just everything about it is really great. I wish we had it.
The fleet sails on together, on the lookout for anything strange. Little do they know, action lurks ahead. The NATO fleet sails off the coast of Mozambique. In 1 week, they'll begin their sail around the Horn of Africa, the marine highway between Somalia and Saudi Arabia. A notorious pirate hangout. Extremely dangerous waters. This is a historical mission for everyone involved, including NATO.
They've done exercises outside of the AOR, but for a major deployment like this, 12,000 miles and circumnavigating Africa, it's historic in that it's a first, and working with the South African Navy was a first, and conducting presence operations off both the west and east coasts of Africa as part of that trip is another first as well.
So we could leave at least 2 ships down here at the 200 to 300 nautical mile area where piracy is a problem.
The presence of the fleet is expected to deter pirates, but the pirates that have been known to operate around the Horn of Africa are fearless. The sailors have to be ready for anything.
I never thought when I joined the Navy I'd be fighting pirates in the high seas. I thought that was something that was long gone, but the reality is it's the 21st century and pirates are still probably one of the principal threats to the world trade.
Intelligence also indicates that there's probable pirate motherships, what we've seen in the past recently, ships operating with skips and whatnot.
Modern-day pirate looks nothing at all like the Pirates of the Caribbean, the Johnny Depp character. He's a pretty bright guy, really, a businessman. He takes a vessel. They're smart. They have good tactics. They know how to do it so that they don't hurt someone if they can avoid it. They're looking to intimidate the crew into surrendering the vessel. Then they take it and ransom it. So really, it's hijacking for ransom and kidnapping. That's what modern-day piracy looks like.
The XO of the Evertsen says today's pirates even have modern toys.
In general, they have modern small fast boats, they have modern arms, and they have modern communications means. And they know that taking small goods from a ship is not bothering anybody. They take control of the whole ship, or they take the crew hostage, and this is what gives them the good press and also gives them the good attention that they want. And then we're talking millions of dollars that are being paid to get these ships back and to get the crews back, and this is big money for them.
Not only do they have the technology, they know NATO's rules of engagement.
The pirates are fully aware of the fact that once the pirate sees a vessel, we can't fire back at them. It's not really part of our mandate, and so they'll take liberty with that, and they've been known to sort of almost show off to military forces shadowing them. Because at that point, unfortunately, we'd love to take action, but we're handicapped by the fact that we would harm the people who've been captured by the pirates.
The ship has one more day to train before their next port. The captain runs the crew through an exercise. Today, a small pirate boat is going to come too close to the ship and fire some shots.
The state of the pirate boat?
Assumed, the underway force protection state, yellow. Assumed, the underway force protection state, yellow.
I'll go it, sir. That vessel is suspect, called threat, port bow. Under. Threat, port bow.
Oral status watch, regarding threat, on the vessel is port bow. It's now at 700 yards, closing, bearing 352.
The boarding party reacts to shots fired from the small boat. Because it's an exercise, they pretend to fire so no one gets hurt.
Bridge, engage!
So I'm gonna go try to get him to come alongside and tell him to...
He's dead. No, it's perfect. He's dead. Is dead in the water.
They've stopped the small boat. Now, they have a new problem.
It's a really interesting situation because 1 minute we could be under attack from a small boat loaded with people firing at us, and trying to do their best to kill us. But once that engagement's done and that threat is removed and they can no longer threaten harm to the ship, then in fact we now have a duty to respond and provide aid to them.
Everyone to close up and prepare to receive possible detainees.
Under the protective eye of the boarding party, the medical officer assesses the injured.
These people are still potentially a threat to the ship, but we have to make sure that we can bring them on board safely so that they can't harm any of our crew, but at the same time provide them the care that they require.
Once on deck, they're checked, treated, and guarded. Taking a detainee on board is a serious issue. There are many legal issues to consider.
We don't want to be perceived to be mishandling prisoners, and so Canada has a policy that every person that we detain is treated with a prisoner of war status, whether they actually are prisoners of war or not. And so this exercise, we had Major Raleigh, our embarked lawyer, monitor the whole thing to make sure that we were complying fully with all the international statutes and Canadian law.
Gonna answer a couple questions. Hello?
Three strikes only?
So there were some minor issues that I noticed, but the team also picked up on those as well. So I was quite happy with the way things went ultimately. And of course, this is a learning exercise, and those lessons learned will be applied going forward.
And the first time I observed anyone being offered water was at 10:55 hours. It was PO2 Brown giving water to the female detainee.
Although the ship is unlikely to take in a detainee in this mission, it's good practice for the crew.
It's not something that we practice every day. We practice fighting fires every day because there's a good chance that we might have to deal with that someday. It's what I always tell the team, it's risk versus consequence. And what's the risk of it happening and the consequence when it does happen. And the odds of us having to embark a detainee in this deployment are pretty low. But if we don't do it properly, the consequence is high.
After a short port visit, the crew will sail into the Horn of Africa, a place where pirates hold ships for ransom, and anything can happen. Little do they know, the lessons they just learned will soon come in handy. The fleet has a 3-day stopover in the Republic of Seychelles, a beautiful paradise northeast of Madagascar, an archipelago nation of 155 islands. It's world famous for its beaches and diving.
Once they get voted into the rib, I mean, that's...
Or we can make that an exile island.
The sailors are anxious to check it out and to step on land after 2 weeks at sea.
Take one of the captain boots. Yep, one of the captain.
Everybody is guaranteed some time off in port, and they know how they want to spend it.
What I'm doing in port is I'm going to be going to do some scuba diving with the big blue divers. We're going to see some coral reefs and some whale sharks.
I'm going to sleep a lot of sleep.
The first day in port is hectic. The ship needs to be restocked for 3 more weeks at sea. There's a lot of work to be done. The ship needs to be scrubbed, inspected, and converted into a venue for a high-level cocktail party. The cocktail party allows the Navy to show off their finest culinary talents and hospitality to local dignitaries.
It's something different from the normal embassy routine of let's all gather at this embassy and have drinks. Instead, it's let's go down to the ship. It attracts people who wouldn't normally attend Canadian receptions.
Every port visit offers different scenery and experiences. In Cape Town, some of the sailors had an experience that changed their lives.
I think a highlight trip was probably so far with South Africa. We got to, in Cape Town, got to do a lot of neat things, especially working with the orphanage in there. The consulate in South Africa actually got together with the consulate in Canada, and they made an agreement that we go in there and do some work with the orphanage.
It turned out to be a mission highlight for many. Firefighter Martin Paget is happy he chose to visit the orphanage that day.
We had to paint and do some work around the orphanage, and we were just transporting some rocks and stuff like that. And I saw that little girl. I said no. She was looking at me, and she was so cute, right? So I said I had to pick her up. As soon as I picked her up, it's just like she needed some love, some affection, right? So she just hugged me and everything, and she fell asleep in my arms. It was like there was no words to describe that. It was just something like that made my trip worth it, right? So it was quite a good experience.
Some activities are arranged for the sailors in port. One of the activities is a famous 10-kilometer run for charity, the Terry Fox Run. The Canadians have involved the whole fleet.
This is lots of fun, actually. I mean, it's a beautiful tropical island, and we went scuba diving yesterday, which was all good fun. But you know, you get an island like this, it's fun to do something different. You know, running a Terry Fox Run on a day like today, it's all good. Temperature's nice for it. You know, a nice cool breeze, so you know, it's exciting.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Terry Fox Run in Seychelles raised thousands for cancer research. To thank everyone, the Canadians invite the runners back to their ship to share a Canadian naval tradition: moose milk.
It's like a protein shake. It's much better. Post-workout shake, yeah.
Delicious. It's not describable. It's just moose milk.
10K and some moose milk. Couldn't be a better day.
Well, moose milk's it's a NATO tradition that a Canadian ship on a Sunday that when it belongs to a NATO force will serve moose milk. And so Toronto has kept up that tradition, and so far in every port we've been in, we've held a moose call at least once, and that's where we make up the finest of moose milk and serve it on the flight deck to all of our friends from the different NATO ships.
Moose milk is adored by sailors around the world, and the Canadians aren't about to give away their secret.
So this is moose milk. It's a Canadian naval tradition. Every port we go to when we're in a NATO fleet, we have to put one of these on because everybody badgers us about it. So
That's right. So it's made with a couple of key ingredients. We got about 5 or 6 types of alcohol in it. You got your assorted rums, the most secret ingredient though, is love.
Why is it a secret? Well, because then it wouldn't be special if it wasn't something secret. You can't give away everything.
The crew enjoys kicking back. The mission has been challenging, but the big mystery is yet to come. Tomorrow, they sail towards areas of unrest.
Right now in Somalia is pretty much a failed state. It's been that way for a number of years, and you know, there's a lot of chaos ashore there, and in a lot of the surrounding countries there's a number of difficulties, and one of the issues is getting food in, and the World Food Program has had considerable difficulty getting food shipments ashore to aid in some of those disaster areas or problem areas because of piracy.
After 3 days of sun and sand, they will now spend weeks in operation mode. The captain feels the crew is ready for whatever comes their way.
We're ready, most ready. We spent a year getting ready for this deployment in all aspects, from logistics to seamanship, not just warfare.
With the Navy, I mean, we've been into different situations or whatever before. This is what you train for. I mean, when you sign the dotted line, there's times that you may be put in harm's way.
It's a trip of a lifetime. This is what we joined the Navy for, and to be able to go out and around a continent like Africa, doing real operations where you never know what's going to happen.
And the captain could never have predicted what would happen next.
And
It's been 2 weeks since they left the paradise of Seychelles. They sailed around the Horn of Africa and saw nothing. No sign of pirates, no sign of trouble. But things are about to change. At dusk, the night shift starts their watch, but it will be no ordinary night. On the little island Jazirt Atta-Ir, a volcano erupts. Lava squirts into the sky and pours over the tiny island. 29 Yemen soldiers live and work on the island. The lava destroys their compound. Many take to the sea and swim for their lives. HMCS Toronto is 80 kilometers away. They sail toward the island. It's flooding in lava.
I have to say that was my first time that close to a volcano myself. It was pretty amazing as a spectacle, pretty sad as an incident.
At first, people were getting very nervous on board because the closer and closer we were getting from there, it was unbelievable. Like, the fire was really high. You could feel the heat. We didn't know what was going on. We heard that there was people in the water.
The Yemen Coast Guard asked NATO to aid in a search for survivors.
Watch up there, coming up on the flag deck.
A major search and rescue operation begins. And HMCS Toronto moves even closer to the island.
I gave them orders to head right into the shoreline, right up to the shoreline if need be. You know, in these circumstances, you have to take some risks, and you know, in the business of trying to save people's lives, you've got to mitigate those risks when, you know, put some pretty experienced people in the boats, but you got to take some risks to make things happen, and we sent them off to patrol the shorelines looking for survivors.
Zodiac 2, this is Bridge 9, and also disregard down signals, over.
We're just gonna search from here, heading back towards that way, away from where that other boat went. Go inshore, stay 100 yards off.
Well, if there's anything out here, that's where it's gonna be.
We didn't know exactly how many people were on the island. Were there people in the water that needed rescuing?
Sailors scan from the ship. Others take turns out on the water, each desperate to find a sign of life without putting undue risk on their own.
We were a little nervous because I was responsible for the rib and for the Zodiac that came with us, but at the same time it was pretty thrilling to be that close to a volcano, so it was a mix of awe for the spectacular show that was going on and concern to make sure that I didn't miss something that might jeopardize the 6 people that were with me.
The ship learns that 21 of the soldiers have been rescued, but there are still 8 missing. They hope to find them alive. The ships in the area use all of their resources on the search. If there was anyone in the water, they would surely be found.
There was a lot of ship out there. There was even a lot of cargo ship out there just waiting for the call, finding somebody in the water. But it's very hard to see at night.
Hours go by. Still, no sign of survivors. The crew is tired, but they don't give up. They search through the night. After a night of finding no one, they are weary and discouraged.
The volcano last night was pretty spectacular. It's a pretty unusual sight, and we did put some small boats in fairly close to shore to attempt to render assistance and to hope to find some survivors. Last night we didn't have any success.
At daybreak, the Yemen Coast Guard calls off the search. The fleet is thanked for their help. They resume their original mission.
We were disappointed we didn't find someone overnight, and I never really gave much thought to the fact the search had been called off at that point, and in retrospect it was clearly a premature end to the search.
6 miles northwest of the island, their luck changes. The U.S. Navy ship finds a survivor from the water. The search is back on, and hope is revived.
We knew there was more people in the water, and they were telling us that there was 8 or 9 people still in the water, so by finding one guy already, of course there was more people in the water, so the hope was there yet.
The crew ignores their weariness. They scan every inch of the surface. The sun's reflection and extreme heat make the search extra hard. So does the debris and ash caused by the volcano. But their persistence is about to pay off. With renewed hope, the sailors carefully comb the water. There are still 7 missing Yemeni soldiers, and maybe they're still alive.
We got something blue in the grate.
Suddenly, leading seaman Valérie Martin sees it. A tiny motion in a giant sea.
They sent me up to the portside bridge wing, and we were 4 people closed up there. I had the binoculars. There was the guy beside me on the big eyes, and I think I was there for 20 minutes when I actually saw, I thought it was foot in the water, but it was only 2 black spots. And I kept looking again, and it kept disappearing below the waves, I should say. But then I thought I saw some arm waving or whatnot, water going up in the air.
Private Ahmed of the Yemen Army has a strong will to live. He fled the volcanic eruption and survived for nearly 20 hours in the Red Sea. His nightmare is about to end.
I have to say that I don't know if I got lucky that I found the guy, because it was, as I found the guy, it was really hard to see, and I concentrated on that view that I had at that time, I remember. And when I was sure it was a guy in the water, my heart just stopped, I have to say, because it was so small out there, but I could tell it was a man. After, I would say, a minute, I was sure it was somebody out there.
Private Ahmed is in rough shape. He's dehydrated, exhausted, and bewildered. His eyes red from long exposure to salt. Medical staff care for his needs. The search continues for others throughout the day. However, other members of Ahmed's team aren't so lucky.
We're not sure how many soldiers actually went into the water. The numbers vary considerably. Right now, what I can tell you is that Toronto has recovered 1 survivor, and unfortunately, we've embarked 2 dead bodies as well.
Hey, and again, we all get up, right?
Private Ahmed recounts his story to his colonel, and for the first time, speaks to the people who saved him.
He's appreciating what you have done for him.
We'd like to give him this ball cap from the ship so that he remembers who
saved his life.
Who helped him, and also so that you can tell everyone that we were happy to help you. So please take this from us.
تفضل هذا هدية منهم.
The Canadian sailors return the Yemen soldiers to their army. They stand silent as the victims are repatriated to their countrymen. Private Ahmed is the last member of his command post to be found alive. Finally, it's Private Ahmed's turn to go home. His eyes speak of gratitude. He will never forget that night on the Red Sea, and he will never forget it was Canadian sailors who saved his life, nor will they forget him.
We saved an individual who had been in the water for 20 hours, and to bring him on board this ship, see him walk off, was enough to touch anybody's heart.
The port visit to Seychelles, seeing a unique part of the world, was great, but I have to say that my career highlight to date was the volcano eruption at Jazirt, Atta-Ir, and being able to take part in that rescue effort and seeing the ship's company come together so well in that moment.
The search and rescue brought an already close team closer.
The ship's company that we have right now is probably one of the best ship's company that I've ever seen. They come to the call, they don't ask why, they just do it, and they carry on the mission just as well as anybody else. But what I want to say is that the ship's company on HMCS Toronto is an outstanding ship's company in every sense of the word.
They continue their mission around Africa. The captain is proud of the mission and his crew's rescue efforts.
It was a fitting way to end the deployment in the sense that that was a success story, in the sense that we saved 2 people, we recovered a couple of bodies, and were able to at least get them home to their families ashore. And you know, 10 out of 10 as far as I'm concerned for this trip.
Hi, I'm Jess Baker, in Seychelles, and you're watching Truth Duty Valour.